Right, everybody. Firstly, can I just say welcome to the call this afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Carol Ray, and I'm the head of membership services here at the NFRC. So before I start the introduction of our presenter, I'd just like to do a few housekeeping rules, if I may. So the meeting is going to last about an hour. So I will be ending the call at 5:30, and hopefully we'll have lots of questions and answers before then. If I could ask you all to remain on mute during the presentations, obviously it makes it easier for everybody to hear and avoids distractions for the presenter themselves. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so there'll be lots of time to ask your questions. So if you do think of something as we go along, keep it in the back of your mind, and then once the presentation's finished, just raise a virtual hand or pop a question in the chat box and we'll pick them up from there. The meeting is being recorded, and that's purely because I'd like to share it with the wider membership who couldn't join us this afternoon. So that will be made available after the call. And I'll also be sharing the slides. So you don't need to make copious notes, as those will be circulated as well. So without further ado, we've already been chatting there, but I'd like to now hand across to David Bishop, Policy Manager for Build UK. And David will be shouting at me throughout because I'm operating the slide, so bear with us. So David, if I could hand over to you, please.
Cool, thank you very much for that, Carol. So, I mean, Carol's already introduced me, so this feels like a bit of deja vu. So yeah, I'm David Bishop, Policy Manager at Build UK. And today I'll be talking about the benefits of the Common Assessment Standard. So I'll be giving an overview of what the Common Assessment Standard is, for those of you who don't know what it is, also how it works, and also sort of a couple of actions you can do straight after the meeting in order to get the benefits of it. However, before I do that, I thought it'd probably be helpful to start with like who Build UK are and who do I represent. So Build UK is a trade association, exactly the same as NFRC, and we were formed back in 2015 to bring the industry together around one table and speak with one collective voice. And currently we represent over 40% of the sector, including major contractors, clients, and the specialist supply chain. NFRC is one of our largest trade association members, and they have been with us since pretty much day one. So as soon as we formed, NFRC were with us because they understand the value of collaborating across the entirety of the supply chain. And that's really what Build UK does, is we work together with all our members through collaboration to make the industry better. So throughout COVID-19, we produced the site operating procedures, which were adopted across the industry, which meant that construction remained open out throughout every lockdown. We're one of the very few industries to have these procedures, and also the ability to keep operating even though lockdowns kept on shutting around most other sectors. We are committed to driving change across the industry, and our business plan is focused around three strategic themes. The first one is improving business performance, which is driving sustainable growth across the industry with a specific focus on the construction business model. So that's stuff about payment and retentions generally. The second one is increasing productivity, which is adopting more effective ways of working and increasing our use of technology. And that's really where the Common Assessment Standard fits in for our strategic priorities. And the final one is recruiting, training, and retaining the talent the industry needs. So apprenticeships, open doors, etc. Really, our focus is to deliver practical solutions that make a real difference on the ground. And the Common Assessment Standard is a prime example of that. And really, that is streamlining the PQ process. So really, when I say the PQ problem, you'll be very familiar with what the PQ problem is. So at the moment, well, the thing we are changing is it's a multitude of different questionnaires and standards, which are huge drain on resources, particularly for yourselves. I mean, it can cost individual companies thousands of pounds to get all these different accreditations. And according to one report, it can cost the industry up to £1 billion in order to get all these different standards, accreditations, charters, you name it, it has been out there. And the Common Assessment Standard has been created in order to solve this. It is an industry-wide solution that we began rolling out 2 years ago. So what is the Common Assessment Standard? Well, Really, I think it's easy to talk about what the objective of it is first. So our aim is for suppliers such as yourselves to be audited just once a year, and for this to be accepted by all main contractors and clients without them specifying a particular assessment body or standard. So that's our objective, and that's what we're working towards. The very first step was actually publishing an industry agreed question set and corresponding assessment standards. That's literally why it's called a common assessment standard. It's trying to be universal set. It's based on PAS 91 with additional questions already being used by industry. When we set off, we didn't deliberately reinvent the wheel. We basically looked at what the industry already was doing, which was good, and then we brought it all together. And it took us a number of years to create this question set, and we called in help from government, contractors, clients, trade associations such as NFRC to come to this question set. So certification to the Common Assessment Standard is available from 4 recognised assessment bodies. And if Carol can go on to the next slide. There you go, you can see all their details. Achilles, CHAS, Construction Line, and CQMS. We've helpfully also put their product names on this slide as well. So you can see the 4 recognised assessment bodies and the products which are all aligned with the Common Assessment Standard. As you can also see, there are 2 levels of certification to the Common Assessment Standard, desktop and site-based, and you select the level that is most appropriate for your business. So for those of you who don't know the difference, but I'm sure you all do, but I'll go for it anyway. A desktop audit is literally a remote audit when an assessment body will look at the information you submitted and remotely assess it against a relevant assessment standard within the Common Assessment Standard. A site-based audit is a bit more in-depth, and that will involve an auditor from the assessment body coming to your premises to verify the implementation of the policies and procedures which you had submitted. So it's a bit more robust and it's a bit more in depth. The whole point of the Common Assessment Standard is rather than you having to get it multiple times, you only need to get it once. So you can choose from any of the 4 recognised assessment bodies to complete the relevant standard with, and the question set will be identical. So it doesn't matter if you go to CHAS, Achilles, CQMS, or Construction Line, they will give you the same question set and audit you to the same standard. So that's why it's called the Common Assessment Standard. Once you've been audited against the standard, and if you are successful, then you'll receive your certificate. The certificate will be valid for 1 year, so exactly the same as SSIP and other common industry accreditations. And also, once you get it, provided that you keep any of your time-critical documents up to date, such as your insurances, it will last throughout the entire year. And then when the next year rolls out, then you'll be assessed again. So exactly the same with any other accreditation. Currently, there is over 16,000 suppliers certified to the Common Assessment Standard by the 4 recognised assessment bodies. And if you already have one of the following accreditations on the screen, then you already have the Common Assessment Standard. And that's one of the things that we are finding, that a lot of people do have the Common Assessment Standard and haven't actually quite realised it yet. So if you do have Construction Line Gold or Achilles Building Confidence, you've already got the Common Assessment Standard, which is brilliant. And which means I can then very nicely go on to the next bit, which is all about the benefits of what having it means. So stage 1 is getting the Common Assessment Standard. The next bit is what we call data sharing. So the very key bit about data sharing is over the last 2 years, we've been working with contractors and clients across the industry to adopt the Common Assessment Standard. And if Carol can go on to my next slide. Currently, there's over 20 organisations that have already adopted the Common Assessment Standard. So all these companies you can see here accept the Common Assessment Standard from any of the recognised assessment bodies. They do not specify that you need to get it from any particular provider. So regardless if you've got Construction Line, Achilles, CHAS, whatever, you can go to them and you'll be able to join their supply chain without the need to get another accreditation from a specific provider. The reason they're able to do this is because of the data sharing solution we've put in place with the help of the recognised assessment bodies. What we mean by that is, in the past, a lot of contractors traditionally specified a particular assessment body because they relied on that assessment body to provide them the data they collect from you during the audit process. For example, in the past, Balfour Beatty used to use just Construction Line, so did Vinci, and Skanska and Sisk used to use Achilles. That's because when a company was audited, they will get hold of your data and then put it into these various contractor systems. Now, with data sharing, we've unlocked that. So the data sharing solution involves the recognised assessment body sharing data on suppliers with each other. So a contractor no longer needs to specify a particular recognised assessment body from the data in order to access the data. So they can actually choose anyone. So for example, Vinci will still use Construction Line's data portal, but you as a supplier could be accredited by Achilles. Achilles will share your data to Construction Line so Vinci can see your data. So that's how it all works. And really one of the first benefits of the Common Assessment Standard is for you to share your data with all the recognised assessment bodies. And all you need to do so is simply sign a permissions form agreeing for your data to be shared. That's it. And if Carol goes on to the very next slide, please. There you go. This just shows you all you need to do. So as soon as you filled in your permissions form, your data is shared from one recognised assessment body to another recognised assessment body. So, and I've put the links on the screen for you, and this presentation will be shared after the meeting. So if you've already got Construction Line and you want to be, and you want your data to be shared, you just click on Achilles, complete that form, and your data will be shared from Construction Line straight to Achilles. That's it. There's nothing more you need to do. You don't need to pay any more money. You don't need to fill in any more sort of questionnaires or anything. All you need to do is just give Achilles your name and your membership number of Construction Line. Same applies to CHAS and CQMS. And what this means is that you only need to be certified once and have the choice, and you have the choice of which recognised assessment body to use. So you can go to the one that you think has got the best customer service, is the cheapest, looks nicer. It's really up to you. And your data will still be visible in different portals to different contractors and clients. As you can understand, feedback from contractors and clients have been very positive about this. And the more organisations that adopt the Common Assessment Standard, the more we can reduce duplication for everyone. Because really, this is the key to stopping you guys having multiple accreditations, is data sharing. And also the very good news is, I actually wrote this presentation last week, and so I was about to say we are expecting the Cabinet Office to publish updated guidance which will shortly enable public sector bodies to also use the Common Assessment Standard. However, 2 hours ago they actually updated their new guidance, the new PPN. So the good news is that within the next sort of couple of months we'll then start seeing more public sector bodies also accepting the Common Assessment Standard. Which is brilliant because that's unlocking quite a large number of construction opportunities across the UK. So that's brilliant news. So it means if you've got the Common Assessment Standard, it's not just for those companies that Carol also showed, but going forward, it also means that public sector. So if you work for local authorities, you work on certain frameworks and subcontractors, again, they will start being asking for the Common Assessment Standard. And again, you've got this one certificate, you'll be able to get even more value from it. So that's data sharing. Now I'm going to go through, I'm trying to avoid saying this is the boring bit, but I'm just going to go in a bit of nitty-gritty detail of the actual question set. So as mentioned previously, the Common Assessment Standard is based on existing PQ questionnaires with desktop and site-based assessment standards. We deliberately created it for construction companies for stage 1 procurement, which is business assurance. So the Common Assessment Standard is only going to focus on stage 1 business assurance stuff. So for all of the sector-specific stuff, we've left that with the trade association. So NFRC is brilliant at making sure that all you are great at roofing. So they run the competent person schemes, they run all that stuff that you need to be excellent roofers. We're never going to go near that because that's not what the point of the Common Assessment Standard is. The Common Assessment Standard is just for business assurance and is divided into 10 key sections covering all the relevant areas of pre-qualification. So it covers identity, financial, corporate professional standing, health and safety, quality, etc., etc. So it's all the stuff you expect to see in a pre-qualification. Now, the majority of questions within it are mandatory, and failure to complete them will mean that you won't pass the Common Assessment Standard. However, these mandatory questions are actually pretty much legal requirements, such as health and safety law, financials, insurance details, etc. So not having them in place means a company is breaking the law. So whilst there is quite a few questions, a lot of these is just due diligence on the supply chain. So once you have it, you're proving to a contractor that, yeah, you are operating as a good business and you meet all the legal requirements of the UK. There are also a number of advisory questions within the Common Assessment Standard. And what an advisory question means is you can still attempt to answer the question, and if you pass it, great. But if you don't pass it, that doesn't stop you getting the common assessment standard. These are sort of questions where we're just trying to signpost to suppliers like yourself. This is where the industry is moving towards. And in the future, these might be mandatory questions, but at the moment they're not. So these cover areas such as, for example, cybersecurity. It's not mandatory to have a cybersecurity policy, but as we're increasingly entering a more digital world, it is a good thing to have. The same applies to mental health policies. Again, there is no set requirement to have it, apart from looking after the mental health of your employees. But again, that's something the industry is increasingly looking at towards. Finally, and more importantly, going back to how we haven't reinvented the wheel and our goal is to reduce duplication, you may be exempted from answering certain questions if you hold other third-party audited certificates, such as ISO standards or SSIP, or there's questions that are not relevant to your business. For example, if you don't do any work which involves BIM, building information modeling, then you don't have to answer the entire BIM section, and that knocks off quite a few questions. If you don't employ subcontractors, then you don't have to answer questions on subcontractors. So, and another example of what I mean by that, so if you hold a valid SSIP certificate, so from either CHAS, MAS, or any of the 30 schemes from the SSIP, you turn up, you want to fill in the common assessment standard, you present your SSIP certificate, and then you're exempt from answering pretty much all of the health and safety questions. There's about 40 questions, but if you turn up the SSIP, you're exempted from answering them because you've already proven you've met the standard within the common assessment standard. The same applies to quality. You have 9001, you don't have to do a quality section. Same with environmental section, etc., etc. So really what we're trying to do as much as possible is, rather than forcing you to answer the same questions again, if you've already got the standard and can prove it, you can just fly through it. So that's how we're doing. Furthermore, the common assessment standard has been designed to be proportionate. So the standards for certain questions have been revised for micro businesses. So if you're a micro business and you have like less than 10 employees and a turnover below 1.8 million, often you either need to only provide a statement rather than a full policy for certain questions. So for example, the health and safety section or the quality section, and also you're exempt from answering some questions altogether. There's quite a few questions in there that it would just never happen to a micro business. So we're just not going to ask it in the first place because there's just no point really. So again, this is how we've tried to make it proportional throughout the supply chain. So if you're a multi-billion pound company or multi-million pound turnover, then you'll have to answer far more questions in greater detail. But if you're a small company or a micro business, then the number of questions you answer will be greatly reduced and the assessment standard applied in a proportionate way. So for example, you won't have to, like, if you're a large company, you have to provide information on your modern slavery policy. If you're a micro business, you wouldn't even be asked that question. So as I said, we've done it in order to cater for everyone up and down the supply chain. The full question set is freely available from our website. I mean, Carol's going to share it with you all after the meeting. So we've tried to make it as transparent as possible. So you can just go on our website, see it, and then you understand what you're going to be asked. Within it, mandatory and advisory questions, as well as exemptions and what documents you need to complete the common assessment standard are clearly laid out with guidance to assist you in your audit. So really what we've tried to do is you look at the full question set. It not only tells you what the questions are, but it also tells you what guidance is in order to complete a question. So if you're unsure what we're aiming for or what the assessor is aiming for, it will tell you. And in some sections, it even links you to government websites or other websites to download template policies and procedures. So if you don't have something in place, it will signpost you to where you can get this information in order to put it in place. Finally, and importantly, the common assessment standard is reviewed every year to ensure that it remains up to date and continue to meet the needs of the industry. So the last version was actually published in July last year, and we have just started this year's review process to incorporate elements of the Building Safety Act, as well as a few other bits and pieces. Because as you probably be aware, the new Building Safety Act will impact all construction companies in the supply chain. We want to ensure that the common assessment standard is always up to date. So that will be released later on this year. And one of the benefits, again, of the common assessment standard is if you do have it, then you've got a certificate that will continue to meet the needs of the industry. It won't be out of date. You can go to everyone and say, look, I've met all the latest requirements in the UK. I've proven that I'm competent. I'm a good business. And so you can go from there. So what next? So if Carol goes on to my next slide. So that was very much a whistle-stop tour of the Common Assessment Standard. Rather than sort of going into the minutiae of every bits and pieces of it, I wanted to give sort of the top-level overview of it. But however, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions, and obviously I'm more than happy to take them because we do have a full hour if we need to use it. However, I also wanted to give you a few actions to take away so you can all do right now, depending on whether you have the Common Assessment Standard or not. So the first thing to do is to check to see whether you have the Common Assessment Standard or not. As I said, while 16,000 suppliers already have it, we have discovered in the past a few companies have it, but just don't realise it. For example, you might be more used to product names. So you might go, well, I've got Construction Line Gold, but you might not be aware there's actually the Common Assessment Standard, same with Achilles and so on and so forth. So first thing to do is check to see you've got it. I said you may already have it. And if you don't have the Common Assessment Standard yet, then you can easily go to our website to look at the full question set, as I said, and the list of clients and contractors currently using it. And at that point, you can make a decision about whether you want to be certified against it. Obviously, I believe that everyone should have it because I'm blatantly biased because I helped to write it. But really, at that point, you need to make the business decision. So as I said, you can see a list of contractors and clients on our website and say, look, I don't have it, but if I do have it, I'll be able to go on their supply chain. And again, that's a business decision. And then, as I said, once you do have it, you'll only be assessed against it once a year. Which again is one of the really big benefits of it. The second bit of it, I said, if you already have the Common Assessment Standard, then ask yourself, are you sharing your data across all the recognised assessment bodies to increase your company's visibility? If you're not, then it's a very easy process to do. And as I said, again, all the links on our website. So I said, if you've already got from Construction Line, it's only going to take you no more than 5 minutes to click on all the links and get your data shared in all the other recognised assessment bodies portals. And that will really increase your company's visibility to other main contractors. So for example, you may already work for Vinci and you may already have the Common Assessment Standard Construction Line, but I said, as soon as you share your data into Achilles portal, you then make yourself more visible to even more contractors who might use Achilles portal and so on and so forth. Finally, it's a case of spreading the word. Now, I'm only one person, and whilst I do spend a lot of my time promoting the Common Assessment Standard, you may have already got the Common Assessment Standard, and you might find you're working with a client or contractor that doesn't know about it. So they might go, oh, this is really interesting, or never heard of it. So really my ask of you is, if you've got it, and you should let your contractor and client know about it. And if they don't know it, then please let me know so I can talk to them about the benefits of it. I'm constantly engaging with new clients and contractors all the time to raise awareness of it and to promote the Common Assessment Standard. And as I said, we keep on rolling it out. We get more and more contractors and clients specifying once they see the benefits of it. And I'm always pleased to have a pipeline of more people adopting it. So yeah, spread the word of it. And if someone not adopting it, let me know, and then I can have the chat with them. And now finally, if Carol can go on to my final slide. So thanks for listening, and NFRC have helpfully included a QR code which will take you straight to the Common Assessment page on our website. NFRC had to set this up because I'm not that technology savvy. And that's it really. So I'm happy to take questions after I've had a quick drink. So far away, I haven't looked at any of the chat. So if you ask questions in the chat, I haven't seen it. So that's it really. Now the floor's all yours.
Lovely, thank you, David. So if any of you are quick on the camera, you can just take a quick shot of that and it will take you straight through to the Build UK website. But we will share the slides, so it'll be there. So I'm going to stop sharing the presentation. So hopefully I can see you all. And if anybody would like to ask any questions, pop your hand up and I should be able to see you and we can have a conversation.
I think Catherine's put her hand up.
Catherine then. There you are, I can see you, yes. Go ahead.
Hello, sorry, I'm having issues with my camera today, but I think it's okay now. I just wanted to ask David on the data sharing point.
Yeah.
Is that kind of once you've done it, that automatically updates forever? Or if, for example, you'd initially filled it out, you needed to change something in your data. So for example, if you started taking on subcontractors and you hadn't before and you needed to update that, would you have to do the data sharing process again, or does that automatically update itself?
So that's an excellent question. So I'm going to separate it out into two just to make it easier to answer. So to order for data sharing to work, you only have to give your permission the once. So that's only a one time. So if you've gone via Construction Line, you only have to give visual permission once for Construction Line to share it to say Achilles. That's a one-off situation. Now, data is constantly transferred between the recognised assessment bodies once you've given your initial permissions. So, for example, if anything does change between you originally getting your certificate and data sharing commencing, that will be reflected as data is being shared. So, for example, if on the 1st of March, you give your permission to Construction Line to say share your data, but on the 10th of March, you change your insurance documents. Now, Construction Line will be sharing its data at least twice a week as a minimum. Some of them do it every day. So on the 10th of March, you change your insurance details. That will be reflected in Achilles on the day after it shares the information. So yes, it is constantly updated. Now, the onus is on you as a business to, so if there is a material change in your circumstances. So for example, if you were assessed with no subcontractors, then you suddenly start taking on subcontractors 6 months down the line, you should tell the recognised assessment body you're doing this, but as soon as you update your data, that will be shared. So that's how it works. So yes. And also the data is shared. There's 3 different elements of data. So the recognised assessment bodies will tell each other whether you've got a valid common assessment standard, whether your data, whether you've got a common assessment standard is valid, but your data has expired. So for example, it will tell Construction Line, will tell Achilles whether your insurance has expired, your health and safety SSIP certificate expired. And the 3rd status is you basically don't have the common assessment standard anymore. So all this data is shared and updated.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any more?
I have one more if I'm not taking time off anybody else.
Go for it, Catherine.
Thank you. So I know we've had a little bit of feedback from 1 or 2 contractors before that sometimes not just because of how it is to run a large business, not everyone in a main contractor or a client organization always knows about accepting the standard. So a couple of people have said they've had to have a little bit of a difficult conversation where they've said, I know you're demanding this one, but really you should be accepting common assessment standard. How can the people on this call navigate that if that happens, and are there any kind of resources that they can point to if that happens?
Yeah, so that has happened to us in the past. It's not a unique situation, I'm sort of sad to say. And often what happens is, so I speak to at a supply chain director level and also CEO level. So they're fully behind it, but it's trying to get the people on the ground to understand this because it's internal comms. So apart from pointing to our website and saying they accept it or talk to your boss, the most efficient way is if any of you on this call has a situation where this has happened, so one of our contractors who should be specifying it but not, either let NFRC know so they can let me know, or you can just email me direct. My email's on the website. You can easily get hold of me. Just say, look, I'm working for this contractor. They should be accepting it. Come to the website, they are, but I'm speaking to someone on the ground, they're not. Let me know. And I'm not saying I speak to their boss to kick them. What happens is you let me know, I explain it, and then this situation gets resolved very, very quickly. It has happened in the past, but it gets resolved in about a couple of hours. So as I said, unfortunately, it's not the world's best process, which is dob them in, but please do, and I'll sort it out for you.
Thank you. That's great.
No, that was a really good question, actually, because I was going to ask, if, as you say, if anybody's suffering from those sort of issues, then let myself know, let David know, and we'll work together to help to resolve them. Oh, I've got a hand. Wait, Helen.
Yeah, I just wanted to check, is Build UK part of NFRC, or is it a different avenue?
So NFRC is a member of Build UK. So we're a trade association of trade associations. I know it sounds a bit meta. So NFRC is one of our 38 trade association members. So that's our relationship. So we work with NFRC on a number of issues, and this is one of them. So we collectively get the industry together because there's some things that NFRC do. So obviously specialists in roofing, brilliant. So if there's we've got any issues about roofing, we go to NFRC and vice versa. So if NFRC has something a bit like this, then we with NFRC and other similar trade associations. So that's how it works.
All right. So is this at an extra cost then? If we needed to join, we would need to join Build UK as well? Because we're a member of NFRC.
No, so via NFRC, you're basically already a member of Build UK, so you get access to all the NFRC helplines, etc., etc. So there's no cost for you. So if you want to email me, that's absolutely fine. Feel free. So there's no charge for you to do any of this. The only charge it will be is obviously getting the common assessment standard. You have to pay for a recognised assessment body. And also, I think this is also worth pointing out is Build UK makes no money from the common assessment standard. So we've deliberately made an approach that we make no money of it in order for us to be completely impartial. So we run it purely in order to solve issues the industry is having. So to become a recognised assessment body, you don't have to give us any money. And to be like, so there's a money changing hands. So we are completely neutral on this. We just want this to succeed because our members want this to succeed. So.
All right, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll if everybody's happy with that, then I would like to thank you all very much for joining this afternoon. As I said, we'll share the slides. We'll also share a short survey, which I'd be grateful if you could complete to just see if this call was useful, if there's other sort of things you'd like us to cover. And obviously to give a big thank you to David for joining us this afternoon and taking us through the Common Assessment Standard. Hopefully you've all got some further information. And as I said, if there's any further questions that you don't feel like asking in an open environment, then just give us a shout. Thank you all very much. Have a lovely evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.